Hello and welcome, Lorcana platypus viewers and or enjoyers. Welcome to another video as we enter into set 7, getting into the full swing of things. I have realized something very important. Hyper aggro is freaking dead. It's dead, okay? I didn't even have time, man. It went by so fast. It's just gone. Just like that. Okay, I admit I'm being a little dramatic. Hyper aggro isn't dead. We already have this new variation of aggro that Earlmeister's come up with. At least I'm pretty sure Earlmeister was the one who came up with it. I haven't been paying full attention, and there's probably some new amethyst amber aggro list that can use show me more to like do shenanigans. But anyways, it's not gone, but that bell has really hampered our ability to play the game. Let me quickly get the YouTuber noises out of the way here. If you're interested in the video, or if you like the video, please consider hitting subscribing, that like button. If you really want to talk to me or converse with my community, check out the Discord down below. We think of deck ideas there and chat about the meta there all the time. Not many of us there yet. If you're interested in receiving coaching from me, it's also down below. And finally, I stream on Twitch. twitch.tv/thatplatypus. Come check me out, have fun, join me. Okay, see you in the rest of the video. Bye! As my co-hyper aggro enthusiast who's been going at it maybe as long or longer than I am, Lauren has pointed out, the new free bell that can be playing turn 1 really hurts our ability to safely quest, but we also got new options. I don't trust this list, but I have not play tested with it yet, so I'll get back to you on where hyper aggro stands. This isn't about hyper aggro today though. Let me get to what it is. See, it was really simple. If Bell prevents a lot of our 1-drops from safely questing turn 1, which was a big reason why we were able to beat like Ruby Sapphire, then what if we can just guarantee that our characters can safely quest turn 1 by making them all evasive? Every single one. That's a lie. You can already see that I have one non-evasive characters, but we've got Evasive Aggro now, my new child that I have been innovating on. Yes, because Evasive Aggro has existed for a long time now. Like, in fact, some of the earliest versions of Hyper Aggro focused on the evasive game plan, but we had reached a terminal velocity of we have so many 1-drops with 2 lore now that we can forego the evasives and actually play bodyguards and just turn quest with our characters twice to try and win the game. But that doesn't work anymore because everything and anything can kill you now. So we needed to adapt, and this is the adaptation. The biggest thing that made me pivot is just the fact that we've already seen this sort of idea function very well in the past of Drawgrow, where, as the name suggests, it's just an aggro deck that draws a lot. But in Drawgrow, of course, we have a lot of the Amethyst package of Fox, Crabs, Snakes, oh my. You know, we're still a mid-range deck at the end of the day, despite our ability to go very fast with all of these little dorks and our evasive characters. What I noticed was that there's one card everyone was sleeping on to make Evasive Aggro the better version of Amethyst Green, and the better version. I won't get too big for my britches here. This deck is still pretty untested. I have maybe 10 games in it so far, and I've won 7 out of those 10, which is pretty good until you remember that everyone's experimenting right now. So if your deck is even semi-coherent in its game plan, you're more likely to win more than lose more as people get through the early experimentation phase of a new set. Anyways, the card I was alluding to, Iago. Iago actually made Evasive Aggro. I want to say the better version, but once again, needs to be proven. So Iago, Evasive Vanish, 4/6. kind of underwhelming because he can die to like a paint the roses and just okay, well, there goes my 4/6 that I spent 4 ink on, or even like a fire the cannons, and it's just he was very ink inefficient if, and only if, you weren't able to challenge with him the turn you played him. But we have Peter Pan Shadow Finder, so our 4/6 with Vanish here is always guaranteed value if we could get Peter Pan out. And then from there, the pieces kind of just fell together, right? Because one of the previous problems of Evasive Aggro was actually of how slow it was at getting to 20 lore. So let's slow down our opponent with Elsa, the fifth spirit, taking out one of our opponent's stuff in combination with Iago, able to take out anything at that point in the game if they've overquested. And then let's go with Genie on the job so we can bounce back a key character that my opponent has played while also establishing another evasive character, especially one with 2 lore. And then Friends on the other side just makes sense to include because you can always sing it with one of your evasive characters like Peter Pan or Tinkerbell or even Merlin Crab, which we might as well include to buff up our Diablo Obedient Raven so that we can get the strong combo of buffing up Diablo and also making it so that our 1-drops are able to trade up above their weight class to protect some of our stronger evasive questers such as Genie Wish Fulfilled, who I don't need to explain why he's so strong because he draws you a card, has 2 lore, and is a 2/4. Everything just sort of fell into place. The only cards that are, I want to say, suspect still are Tinkerbell Fast Flyer because she's effectively a 3-cost do nothing for the turn. You usually, with this deck, are kind of relying on your 1-drops doing a lot of your heavy lifting quest-wise and evasive-wise, or sorry, 1-drops and 2-drops. Like, you're just going to be slowly pressuring your opponent on lore with, like, Pegasus and Pascal the entire game, or with Diablo and Sir Hiss. So then it didn't really make sense to play Tinkerbell. We almost always want to be playing Peter Pan. And there's been so many adjustments made. There was at one point no Merlin goats, but this is where I say I need to still do a lot of testing with this deck. But the undisputed king of this deck is actually Ursula Deceiver. Ursula Deceiver just it's just such a strong card in green. Gives you a good time. Gives you a better time into just any of the matchups with really key songs. This includes the ramp matchups. Because the thing you should actually be sniping with Ursula Deceiver most of the time is actually their how far I'll go rather than their be prepared. All conditional, of course, but because of be prepared's inability of being inked, if they've been over ramping and burning all of their card resources, all of a sudden, if you get rid of how far I'll go, they're left with nothing to do. Then finally, Elsa Spirit of Winter just really tied the whole deck together. Just if you play your 5-cost Elsa, kill something, and then shift out big Elsa and freeze 2 things, oftentimes you'll just be winning on the spot because there's not a whole ton your opponent can be doing. So that's the deck. Nice, simple, easy. I pride myself on my simple, easy decks, but let's talk about different ideas this deck has available to it going forward so that I can hand off this deck to you, the viewer, and you can experiment with it further. Because it's also very cheap, only 110 at for for what Lorcana has been pumping out. That's really good, especially because like 40 of these dollars comes from Elsa Spirit of Winter. Hold on, let me shrink myself down here. Too far. So here's all the stuff I was experimenting with that for various reasons didn't end up in the final build for XYZ reason. One of them is the Shift Pegasus line with Maleficent. This way, you're allowing yourself to play these more aggressive one drops that are able to quest fairly safely by being given evasive with Pegasus, as well as including Emerald Coil in this game plan, so that you have a reliable way of making these one drops evasive and having them quest aggressively throughout the game. Next, then we have just the regular MIM package. I'm not quite sure if they should be included or not. So far, they haven't felt necessary, but I could for sure see an argument for their inclusion pretty easily just because of how strong Madame Mim is. Then we have Archimedes. Archimedes with the Shift Archimedes just gives you another big beat stick that you can use in the deck, especially comboed with Peter Pan. You can either shift out into big Archimedes or just play 5-cost Archimedes and have him kill something. Problem here is that he's just kind of a strictly worse version of Don Carnage, so if we're considering Archimedes, we can consider Don Carnage. The only advantage is the shift line. Then we have Diablo Devoted Herald, very strong card draw source if you can get him off, and with the one drop Diablo, there is a chance that you can even get him off turn 2 and just go crazy, but the uninkable count in my original list is already at, I think, 14 or 12. So it felt hard to justify a 2-2 that we wouldn't reliably get his ability off with. And then finally, Yzma and Kuzco, or well, not finally, we have the Gathering Knowledge and Wisdom as well. But Yzma and Kuzco are just, Yzma was another source of card draw. I was considering even running Rabbit in the deck at some point, but I'm like, Yzma could be better, especially if we're running the change everything evasive package with Emerald Coil and Pegasus Cloud Racer, then we could potentially loop her effect multiple times. I'm just finding myself not that often being at 3 or fewer cards in hand, or when I am, I'm already basically winning the game. So that's why she's not in here. And then uh, finally, I keep saying that. Kuzco, just an interesting card. Once again, he was uninkable, so I wasn't quite able to fit him in here, but he could very much punish the ramp players again if, do you see how much I'm focusing on ramp here? I'm like almost sure that's going to be one of the top decks, maybe if not like Amethyst Ruby or something like that, but the ability to have each player choose and discard a card. If you're at turn 4 and playing Kuzco, you often don't have that many cards left in your hand. And one of the things the deck struggles with is facing opposing Amethyst card draw with goat, not goat, sorry, rabbit and Madame Mim shenanigans. I've like usually come out the winner in these games, but it's something to keep in mind to have this ability to just constantly put pressure on your opponent's hand resources. And then finally, gathering knowledge and wisdom. Sorry for the flashbang. I don't know. It's just it's been breaking. We all need to forgive Dreamborn from time to time. Gathering knowledge and wisdom felt out of place in the deck, just because gain 2 lore and in a deck that like wants to go slightly slower and have more challenge focused things didn't feel good or appropriate. And then classic fashion, I did forget about This Is My Family. It's an interesting card for sure, but it only cycles you. So the problem with This Is My Family is that if we sing it with one of our 2 costs, we're we're card neutral, right? And often lore neutral because both Diablo and Sir Hiss can only gain 1 lore. So it doesn't matter if we sing this with them. It's not like we were missing a lore opportunity, right? It's it I don't see it being that good in the deck, but convince me I'm wrong in the comments and we'll see. So, that is Evasive Aggro. keep up to date with my list here, join the Discord because this isn't the final list by a long shot. I'm still undecided on this Tinkerbell, the uninkable count being at 12. Maybe we can greed up to 14 and include something like gathering knowledge and wisdom. Maybe we need to go up to 4 goats instead of just having the 2. I've literally not played this deck with goat yet, so I have no idea how good he performs in the deck. He theoretically should be pretty good because you play him, gain a lore, swing him into something, gain another lore, which both slows down your opponent and lets you keep questing. Ah! Sudden transition! Okay, sorry for the jump scare. I was originally just gonna end the video there, but I'm like, oh wait, I can actually do more than just talk about the deck. Let's talk about the deck's matchup spread. What's this? What I'm getting word from myself from 30 seconds ago. We have no idea I have no idea what the matchup spread for this deck is like I said, 7-3 with the deck, but also like I said earlier, guess what? Everyone's experimenting now, and so my deck here, with all of my experience of deck building, and like, okay, even Earl Meister's popping off with the discard hyper aggro deck, which honestly, it looks really fun. I'll have to try it out soon. I'm getting so sidetracked. Sorry. I don't know. Theoretically, the things we lose to are. We'll just use Lorcana.gg here to have a general overview of all this stuff. Theoretically, we should be losing to Amber Steel, beating Ruby Sapphire, and 50-50 against the Amethyst decks because they're Amethyst decks. We're an Amethyst deck. It's 50-50. It depends on who gets their game plan off harder. Sapphire Steel can also be pretty brutal with Grab Your Sword, although it is navigatable. And then Amethyst Sapphire is just favored slightly. Emerald Steel, once again, depends on if they get their game plan off or not, and they do have Let the Storm Rage On and Strength of a Raging Fire. They can be pretty annoying. Emerald Sapphire can counter us because that's kind of what Emerald Sapphire does. Amber Amethyst, we have ways of dealing with them. Amber Ruby, these are all of the lower tier decks. So it's across the board not bad. But if people start teching in, especially with Amber Steel, more of these board wipe songs, we just increase our reliance more and more on the Ursula Deceiver. Ursula Deceiver is a large part of why we don't immediately fold under Amber Steel, and she's a very important card in that matchup. She's also important in all of the matchups I just named, which is why, instead of going over the matchup spread and what your game plan is in all of them, I can actually give you a general overview of how you want to mulligan with the deck because it's pretty linear in all of the amazing features of Dreamborn. Let's use the simulate feature. So the things you're looking out for here are effectively what's your curve going to look like. With Ursula Deceiver in hand, I almost always keep Ursula in hand. You don't need to keep multiples, but keeping one is always a good idea because basically every deck in the meta right now is running a song. Let me just shrink myself a little here. So Ursula Deceiver is just high value, always able to really get something rid for you. Merlin Crab is kind of tempting to mulligan here just in order to find an evasive turn 3 card or just Peter Pan Shadow Finder, just because we don't have the Diablo in hand, but he is also just a good turn 3 play with Ursula as well. So we'll keep him. What I'm actually going to get rid of here is Merlin, Genie, and Iago. There's an argument to be had to keep Genie in this case. Let's go with Mulligan Genie though, since we do need an upper end inkable. With the few uninkables in this deck, you're typically not going to get punished by not keeping something to ink. Oh, and sorry, get rid of second Ursula Deceiver. In this case, I forgot about her. We can actually keep Iago in case we draw into Peter Pan. We didn't here, so that's fine, but we actually now have a very nice curve of inking either Gogo or Iago, depending on if you have matchup knowledge, etc., etc. Gogo is not really good until later on in the game when you can gain her lore ability, so she's usually one of the first cards I look towards inking. New game, this hand's way easier to play around with. It's for sure keep Diablo because we have the Merlin Crab in hand already. We can just threaten a big play with Merlin Crab and Diablo. We don't need both of these genies wish fulfilled, so we can put at least one back. Keep Ursula, and then let's keep Goat just to have a guaranteed inkable. So basically, we're just mulliganing one here. Friends on the other side's really nice to have. This could be a little awkward to ink around, but it's usually just going to be ink Merlin, play Diablo, and then depending on what the matchup is, you either ink Sir Hiss or Ursula, and then play the other. Because if you're up against the matchup that has a high likelihood of having a song, you don't need to be playing out Sir Hiss turn 2. You would much rather be playing out Ursula turn 2. And then if they are going to be questing aggressively, you'll just crab with the Diablo and start winning off of Genie. There is also a lot of matchup considerations here, but here we have the Iago Peter Pan combo, so we can get rid of this second Peter Pan and this crab. Keep Ursula once again. Everything's basically running a song at these days. And this is a very nice hand because we can start by inking Elsa, going turn 1 Pegasus, and then depending on if we know what the matchup is, we can either ink a Pascal, play Ursula, or ink Ursula, double play Pascal. Just depends on if you expect the song or not. This could be incorrect as well. I still need to work on my inking strategy for the guide, but really it's just keep these big combos on the turn 3, turn 4. Here it's the Peter Pan and Iago, because you do need to end up slowing down your opponent. Here, there's everything available to us. So in this case, I would bias more towards my evasive game plan rather than my Merlin Crab game plan. I would get rid of Diablo because we don't have a 2-drop in hand here. I'd get rid of Crab. Let's remove Elsa, keep Peter Pan. Didn't get the 2 drops, so that's gonna, you're just hoping to draw into it, but you can always just play another 1 drop and blah blah blah, yada yada. So that's Evasive Aggro. Hopefully this wasn't too rambly or too awful. I even showed that, like, anytime you get Genie and Elsa in your opening hand, you typically just want to mulligan them away because turn 6 is a very long way away to be holding an uninkable in your hand, especially with a deck that has enough card draw that you'll often be drawing into them later on into the game, and you need that extra card draw in order to have those inkable sources in order to be able to play them. But that's going to be it from me. I do hope you hit that subscribe button, that like button, and I hope you leave a comment down below. I wish you a fantastic, wonderful rest of your day, evening, night, whatever it may be for you. And I hope to catch you all next time. And do consider checking out the Discord and the Twitch in the link in the description down below. Okay,